Joe Biden announces return of detainees as U.S. in turn frees 5 Iranians under controversial agreement. The U.S. and Iran have freed 5 detainees each in a controversial prisoner swap involving the unfreezing by the Biden administration of $6 billion, £4.8 billion, of Iranian oil money. In an elaborate and delicate diplomatic deal, months in the making, the 5 Americans, some held for nearly a decade, were taken from hotels in Tehran to a plane that flew to Qatar, before heading back to Washington. Today, 5 innocent Americans who were imprisoned in Iran are finally coming home, Joe Biden said in a statement. The U.S. president added that they will soon be reunited with their loved ones, after enduring years of agony, uncertainty, and suffering. The U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, said he had spoken to the freed U.S. citizens by telephone in what he said was an emotional conversation. Among the prisoners is the conservationist Morad Tahbaz, a British-American citizen. Iranian state media confirmed on Monday afternoon that 5 Iranian citizens imprisoned in the U.S., mostly for sanctions-busting offenses, were also released. Only 2 of the 5 released Iranians have chosen to return to Iran. Qatar has been acting as the mediator for the deal, commencing with the electronic transfer of the Iranian cash to bank accounts in Qatar and Switzerland. The prisoners were allowed to board the plane only after the cash transfer was completed. Apart from Tahbaz, the identities of only 2 other Americans have been made public. It is not clear if the deal will lead to a wider diplomatic breakthrough, or a new, less ambitious route to constrain Iran's civil nuclear program, in which Tehran agrees to lower its stocks of highly enriched uranium. Republican senators in the U.S. and some former Iranian political detainees have accused Biden of striking a deal that will only encourage Iran to keep hostage-taking as a central part of its diplomatic arsenal. The U.S. State Department says the money that is being released is oil money owed to Iran and frozen by the Trump administration in 2018 when the U.S. left the Iran nuclear deal. Last week, 3 European countries, including the UK, accused Iran of building stocks of highly enriched uranium that could have no possible civilian purpose. The U.S. says Qatar will ensure that the unfrozen money is only spent on goods, primarily food, agricultural goods, and medicine, that are not subject to sanctions. However, critics say it will be impossible to police. Brett McGurk, the National Security Coordinator for the Middle East, defended the deal to the Washington Post newspaper, saying, "The president ultimately needs to weigh the terms available through diplomacy against leaving American citizens for years or even decades in Evin prison. In this case, the president made the hard decision to move ahead." The path to the swap reached a turning point recently when the State Department agreed a waiver facilitating the release of the cash from South Korean banks to accounts in Switzerland and Doha. The 5 Americans were previously transferred out of Evin jail in Tehran to various hotels in the capital. Tahbaz was left in Iran when the British-Iranian dual nationals Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Anousheh Ashouri were released as part of a deal negotiated by the then UK Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss. The rights group Amnesty International said it was delighted for Tahbaz and his family who've campaigned tirelessly for his release, often battling with UK officials who've never treated Morad's plight with anywhere near the urgency and seriousness it merited. The deal is a diplomatic win for Qatar as a mediator between 2 countries that deeply distrust one another. The Iranian president, Ebrahim Raisi, due to speak to the UN General Assembly on Tuesday in New York, is likely to laud the deal as another sign of U.S. weakness. Michael McCaul, the Republican chair of the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee, has accused Biden of being naive and returning to the mistakes of the past. The Republican presidential contender Ron DeSantis described Biden's decision as outrageous, adding that it has sent a signal to hostile regimes that if you take Americans, you could potentially profit. A rogue regime should know that if you touch the hair on the head of any American, you will have hell to pay. Richard Ratcliffe, the husband of Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, has criticized the timing of the release, so close to the anniversary of Mahsa Amini's death in Iranian police custody. Iranian Americans, whose U.S. citizenship is not recognized by Tehran, are often pawns between the 2 nations. In the last week, there have been reports that 3 dual nationals were arrested in Iran. It was confirmed 2 weeks ago, for the first time, that Johan Flauterus, an EU diplomat who traveled to Iran, has been jailed since April 2022.